and welcome to Marketplace Africa. I'm Robin Kerno here in Company Gardens in Cape Town. Now we begin this week's show in neighbouring Mozambique, where one newspaper is challenging the traditional business model. So in focus, the concept behind Mozambique's first free newspaper. This is a publishing revolution in action, a high-quality, full-colour, free newspaper that earns money in one of the world's poorest countries. This unlikely business model is mostly financed by Mozambican entrepreneur Erik Charas. So this is free?
Yeah, that is free to the reader. However, the trade-off, and it's like any other business model, is because it's free to the reader and we built an interesting newspaper, a lot of people read it, a lot of people want it, and those people are a potential market for the advertisers. It's just like the Google model, you know, it's just like the free-to-air television model. It doesn't change, we just applied it on the newspaper.
But it's still revolutionary for Mozambique, isn't it?
It is, for a couple of things. I mean, first is with the low levels of literacy that we have there, it's still a lot of people that can read and write. I mean, we're talking about 40% in the worst case scenario. That's 8 million people, and the previous publications that existed, they wouldn't print close to 5,000 copies or even less.
Charas spoke to CNN in Johannesburg. He's in South Africa every few weeks because this is where he prints verdade, which means truth.
Yeah, you know, it's probably the only newspaper that I know that prints in a different country, that we have to send a truck to come and collect it and go over, cross 2 borders, make export procedures, import procedures, bring it in and still give it away for free.
It's free but still highly valued, because he says it gives most Mozambicans a window into another world.
I'll give you an example, the iPad. The iPad launched and we revised it. We have a section just in technology. Our first edition, we revised the iPhone. We got comments from people saying, the majority of readers in your newspaper will never be able to afford an iPhone. I said, well, they can dream about it, and if they do, they'll do something about it to actually own it at some point. So even on our cars page, we revised the BMWs, the Rovers. People need to have and to want that.
Verdade also taps into one of Africa's biggest markets. Those who have very little disposable income and live on the breadline still have buying power.
People that can't afford a newspaper, they have a value. This is what we are saying. You can't afford to buy one newspaper. Instead, you can buy 8 loaves of bread. But at some point, there's people who are willing to make a newspaper possible to come to you. Because that dollar that you don't spend buying the newspaper could buy a product. Could be a Coke, could be a Coca-Cola, could be a recharge voucher, could be a rice, could be a cell phone, anything. Yeah, so you don't have to make a choice, feed your brains or feed your stomach. You know, ultimately, you've been empowered because your dollar counts.
And the reason each reader and their dollar counts is because the advertisers know exactly who they are targeting. Distribution is not random, says the newspaper's deputy director.
The red are the points where we drop big quantities of newspapers, like hospitals, schools, some police stations. We drop them 100 to 200 newspapers, and they share each other.
Maputo doesn't have a functioning postal system, but even if its readers don't have an address, Verdade's 3-wheelers find them. Week after week, they deliver the truth to about 400,000 people. So you have a vision for this newspaper. It's not just about giving people news, it's about uplifting them, isn't it?
It's completely. You know, our goal when we started was, the whole purpose is we're not newspaper people. I mean, ultimately we're social entrepreneurs and there's a group putting together is, how do we build a better country? I mean, we believe we can have a better country than we have now. I mean, with all the conditions. So the idea is, hopefully, if we can just put a little bit of ambition in every single one of us to want more out of our own lives, we end up wanting more out of the country. I mean, we will demand for better healthcare, we will demand for better businesses, for better jobs, if only we want more. So our vision for this is to build ambition on the Mozambicans.
In other parts of the world, newspapers are going through hard times, but not in Mozambique.